You're watching The Pulse. Now, thousands of Ghanaians gathered at the forecourt of the State House for the National Prayer and Thanksgiving Service, a moment to give thanks to God and reflect on the country's journey. In his message, one of the most senior and influential Ghanaian in the Global Catholic Church, Peter Cardinal Appiah Turkson, touched on the devastation caused by illegal mining, reminding the nation that the transformation of Ghana is not solely the responsibility of the president, but a collective duty for all citizens.
The Pra River doesn't sell prawns and shrimps anymore. Ofin River has become a puddle of mud. The Ankobra is already gone. Children in upstream who jump into waters that I used to do when I was a child, stream to swim, they then are taken to the hospital with ruptured scrotum because of exposure to cyanide and mercury. So the negativities are with us. Our church hospitals in the middle part of this country talk about increasing children born with deformities. So my dear friends, the external negativities are already with us. And it causes virtuous thinking to not simply look for personal gain and interest, but to think about Ghana as a nation. We need a real awakening sense of solidarity, fraternal solidarity, each one caring and each one feeling for the other. And in this sense of fraternity, we can face all situations. Facing all situations, then, we replan our journey. We set for ourselves new objectives and goals. And we do not yield to despair. Rather, embracing the values of our own past and religions and faiths, we pursue and formulate the type of solutions and situations which best help us all achieve our common good. When in 2015, Ban Ki-moon stood at the United Nations to present the Sustainable Development Goals, he said that he was formulating a narrative that includes the integral development of every person. No person had to be left out of this project.
Now, representing the New Patriotic Party, Minority Leader Alexander Penyumakin, together with other party executives, delivered a Bible message on behalf of the party.
A reading from the book of Timothy, and I'm reading from the New King James Version. Chapter 2 to 3. Pray for all men. Therefore, I exhort first of all that supplications, prayers, intercessions, and giving of thanks be made for all men, for kings and all who are in authority, that we may lead a quiet and peaceable life in all godliness and reverence. For this is good and acceptable in the sight of God our Savior. This is the word of the Lord.
Now, President Mahama, in his speech, stressed the importance of accountability in governance and in society, noting that it's essential for building a just and equitable nation.
Honest in our dealings, let us be generous in our compassion, and let us be upright in our conduct. We must hold those in authority, including myself, accountable to the highest standards of integrity and humility. Public office is not a privilege for personal gain. It is a sacred trust bestowed by the people and a responsibility to serve all, especially the most vulnerable of us. Even the office of the president, which by the grace of God I now hold, is not above the law. Leadership must be grounded in justice, in honesty, and a reverence of God. If we want a just Ghana, we must be just in leadership. A nation's greatness is not measured by the heights of its skyscrapers or the size of its budget, the values of its people are the true measure of a nation's greatness. The virtues of courage, of honesty, of discipline, of sacrifice, and compassion are what really measure the greatness of any nation. It is in these quiet strengths that the true power of our country, Ghana, resides. It is through these virtues that we will rise and prosper.
Now, founder and leader of Action Chapel, Archbishop Nicholas Duncan Williams, underscored the urgent need for a long-term national development plan to provide clear direction for the country. He also expressed confidence in President Mahama's leadership, stating his belief that the administration has the capacity to drive meaningful transformation in Ghana.
That every vicious cycle that has held this nation back in the years gone by is over. The cycle breaks in the name of Jesus. If you believe it, please put your hands together and shout yes. As I reflected, I realized that in the 50s and the 60s, Ghana was ahead of Singapore, Malaysia, South Korea, and even China. We were ahead of them. And I started meditating, and suddenly I said, why has the gold become dim or dark? What happened to us? This state of retrogression under the leadership of our president, John Dramani Mahama, must be reversed. I look forward in my lifetime to see a new Ghana, a Ghana where our sons and daughters will not line up in any embassy for visa to travel out of the shores of this country for greener pastures, but that our sons and our daughters will be born, raised, schooled, educated, and live and work and flourish and thrive within the borders of Ghana, and will only travel outside for vacation and holidays, but not to go and see greener pastures. All that we will see that day come. And Mr. President, I know that you don't have too many years ahead of you like Singapore had. But Jesus fulfilled his mission in 3 years. The Bible said all things are possible to him that believes, and that with God nothing shall be impossible. And as a believer, it is also said that you can do all things, Mr. President, through Christ who strengthens you. So, Mr. President, within 3 years, make a difference, impact this well, change the narrative of Ghana. Let the city thrive under your leadership. Let the city flourish under your leadership. Let things get better and better and better under your leadership like never before.
But how can political parties ensure that their manifestos align with the broader national development goals of the country? Now, joining me via Zoom is the Deputy General Secretary, Mustapha Bande, of course, for the NDC, and as well for the CPP, Kwame Botiu of the CPP as well. He's a Deputy General Secretary. Thank you for joining us, gentlemen. I'm certain that you have been, well, of course, I'm also joined by Haruna Mohammed of the NPP. Haruna, gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me today. I'll start with you. I will start with you, but first of all, how are you feeling about today's National Day of Prayer and Thanksgiving? Haruna, if you can hear me, kindly unmute. We'll try and connect with the political parties, of course, to understand whether or not what Archbishop mentioned today when he was leading that prayer as to how they are going to be aligning their manifestos to fit in the broader picture. I'll start with the NPP's Haruna Mohammed. Haruna, thank you for joining us today on The Pulse. How are you feeling about today's National Day of Prayer and Thanksgiving?
National Day of Prayer. God, it is good you appreciate God, because everything, God makes it possible for everything. So it is good to be thank God. So I cannot belittle the thousands of people take the thank God. So I think that God is appreciated in all that we have achieved in Ghana.
I mean, is this something the NPP would have anticipated in any way if he had power?
Nobody will drive away the appreciation of God. Our very existence is anchored on the powers of the Lord. And whatever we do, even this discussion we are having is anchored on the powers of the Lord. If we were to be in Awudome or Osu Cemetery, I don't think that we would have been conducting this interview. So it is always good, no matter what, even in difficulties, you have to thank God. However, if you look at politicking, if you read very carefully what is happening today and the rationale behind this National Day of Prayer, this is something that has been anticipated for a longer time. We all know that by 1st of July, VAT will be increased by 21.9%. We all know. By 1st of July, fuel will be increased. We also know that by 1st of July, 2.45% increment in electricity tariffs will also take effect. We also know that prices of all local manufactured plastic products is going to be increased by 7%, which is also 1st July. So as smart politicians, we use the National Day of Prayer, which all of us has bought in, to cover up the discussion. Today, you see that we are not discussing these matters. We are rather discussing the National Day of Prayer. But this is what Ghanaians will go through, the sufferings that the people of Ghana will go through. What we have been confronted with is being covered with the prayer. We will pray to God, but we will also remind ourselves and let the people know, after the prayer, this is what we have been put under by a government that said that they were going to reset, and they are making things very difficult for us under these particular circumstances.
Let me stay with you. So
the 24 hours that they have put us through, they had to go to take money. They are budgeting money that is more than the IMF loan we took, 4 billion, more than the IMF loan that they are asking, which is not incorporated in the 2024-2025 budget. So these are people that we have to be very careful. And what we have to do is to pray to God to reset the resetters so that Ghana can get back on its feet, so that better things can be done for us and not this excruciating difficulties that is put on the people of Ghana on a Republic Day.
Okay, stay with me, Haruna. Let me bring in Mustapha Bandi. Mustapha Bandi, Haruna believes that this is just a cover-up, of course, because you do not want Ghanaians to talk about the very taxes which you're going to be introducing, or by now you've already introduced. He thinks that is a cover-up. What would you say to this?
Good afternoon, and good afternoon to our terrorist listeners. And I think that one aspect that I need to quote is that we can do all things through Christ who strengthens us. And I'll add to say, when the righteous lead, the people rejoice. Today is a manifestation of a great day in our life, where we have laid a solid foundation for national consensus through the renewal of the mind. That begins our development process. You cannot develop if you don't renew your mind. The Bible says that we should not conform to the things of this world, but we should be transformed and be righteous in everything that we do. Today is a day of prayer. I have seen the MPP, I have seen the MDC, I have seen all people from all walks of life. It's for us to come together to build national consciousness, a reflection of what to do and what not to do begins today. And so I am happy that this foundation is laid. I've heard the Archbishop talk about political manifestos and national development agenda. There is no national development agenda better than what has happened today, where politicians, civil servants, and all people, persons, including journalists, we have converged as a country to ply our hearts to God, to ask for more wisdom, to ask for more knowledge, to ask for more direction in terms of what to do and what not to do. It's a national development agenda. To the politics of him, National Prayer and Thanksgiving Day doesn't sacrifice responsibility. It's not a substitute for national responsibility. In the past, we have remembered a bunch of old men who have paraded themselves, led by President Akufo-Addo. They have tried to build a cathedral, but that led us to fraudulency because they didn't have national responsibility. Today, young President John Dramani Mahama have brought all persons for us to pray to God. Good things would happen. Our quest is to ensure or to expect that all Ghanaians will see the dividends of solid and good governance, that all Ghanaians will have to live in peace, that all Ghanaians would have food on their table. This is a rare resetting of this country from the calamities inflicted upon us by President Akufo-Addo and his gang, supported by the MPP and Haruna Mohammed himself, that in the last 8 years up to December, the calamities of a government that was corrupt, the calamities of a government that left the people in poverty is a thing of the past, and that today we are renewing our mind, we are refreshing our hearts, we are applying our hearts to God for more direction, deeper understanding, for knowledge, for national consensus, and I think that it's a good day and a great day for the NDC and the people of Ghana that will continue to pray. Okay. That His Excellency the President will live in long life and will live in good life with a renewal of the mind, with wisdom and guidance by God to do that which will help a Ghanaian child, to do that which will salvage a Ghanaian youth, to do that which will develop this country for all of us. Okay, Mustafa, stay with me. When I come to you, my question though, because I want to go to Kwame to also take his reaction on today and what he thinks and how significant it is. But when I come to you, which I want you to be thinking about would be prayer. Many have said prayer, yes, but Thanksgiving, what are we thankful for? I'll come to you for that. But Kwame, what's your reaction basically about today and how you think that is going to help us as a country?
Good afternoon to you and your cherished viewers and listeners. I have observed today's proceedings. Unfortunately, I couldn't go. Other members of the CPP were there. And I want to start by saying, Osagyefo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah once said that, and I quote, "Let us all remember, nothing in the world can be done unless it has the support of God." So the founder of the country and the founder of the CPP himself knew that Ghana could not get anywhere without the help of God. And I also listened to the wonderful rendition by His Eminence Archbishop Nicholas Duncan Williams, and especially the end where he said that he looks forward to a Ghana where within 3 years of His Excellency's reign, every man will be able to feed his family and his children, and none of us will be able to, will have to travel outside except for holidays. It falls in line with the word of God. That's why we are having prayer and thanksgiving. If you look at 1 Kings 4:25, it says that in the days of Solomon, every man had his own house and his own garden. So we can see that in history, whether biblical history or ordinary history, there have been periods where you have had whole nations where everybody was prosperous. It is entirely possible. We have seen how far China has come. And we also know that when it comes to development plans, the Osagyefo-led CPP government in the 50s and 60s, which His Eminence, the Archbishop alluded to, had a 7-year development plan. So having a development plan is not new in this country. And even in our 1992 Constitution, we have what we call the direct principles of state policy, which is in Chapter 6 of the 1992 Constitution. And it covers about 5 thematic areas, including fundamental human rights, which is number 1, economic development, which is number 2, access to services, which is number 3, environmental protection, which is number 4, and social order, which is number 5. So our 1992 Constitution has the directions within which the country should move. And even if you take an example, the economic development speaks of managing the economy to promote growth, social justice, and well-being for all citizens, not some citizens. However, the shortfall of this directive principle of state policy is that it is not justiciable, which means that if there's any shortfall by the government in following these directives, you cannot take them on except at the ballot box.
Yeah.
And we need more than that. So the Archbishop's call is timely. We need to go beyond. We had a 7-year development plan which helped us for some time. We can also have a 100-year development plan, which can also be codified in the Constitution. I think it's time that we reviewed the Constitution and put exactly where the country wants to go in the Constitution and make the directive principles of state policy justiciable, which means that if any government falls short, there could be some sanctions that could be taken against the government, whether the surcharge, whether it is maybe withholding salary. We need something more than just the ballot box. Of course, it should be constitutional. It should not nothing unconstitutional. But we need something that will pull the parties to their work. If you look at the CPP Constitution, we have always gone according to the development agenda of the country, especially since we are the authors of the first development agenda, which is the directive principles, the 7-year development plan, which I think was somewhere in 1963. So I agree with the call by His Eminence, and that it should be, we should even go further to make the directive principles justiciable and include further directives in the Constitution. And then as a collective, the whole country will come together and decide for ourselves where we want to be within the next 100 years and stick to it.
Okay. Stay with me, Kwame. Back to you, Mustafa. Before we get into the call by the Archbishop and we'll discuss further the National Development Plan, which we know that already exists, at least from 2018, we know that there was a plan that's over 40 years. And I'll come to that. But many have said that, yes, prayer, but thankful for what?
Yeah, so are we not thankful that we have come out of a very peaceful election when other countries have not? Are we not thankful that 7 months ago, the cedi to dollar was 17? Today it is 10. Whatever it is, by God's grace, we have come this far. Are we not thankful that even when we have terrorism and other attacks within the sub-region, Ghana continued to be a beacon of our democracy in West Africa, continued to be a very peaceful country where we have harmonious coexistence even though we disagree politically? Are we not thankful that by the grace of God, Ghana is on a platform of development and resetting where today corruption is being fought at hard on? There's a national consensus on that. Today, the country is growing. There's a national awareness of that. In the last 7 years of President Mahama's regime, we have done what other people could not do for 8 years. 8 years they couldn't do. Even in this conversation, when all of us continue to renew our mind in Christ, you saw my other colleague from the MPP. It is politics as usual. For them, it's about vote and numbers. It is never about wisdom. It is never about the fear of God. It is never about the people. For President Mahama, even in our situation, we continue to thank God that we are alive as a nation, hoping that God will continue to bless us for us to grow more. No president can leave any better legacy than a president who, unites the nation around the legacy of God, where we ply our heart to be lifted by God. With God, nothing is impossible. And when God is with you, nobody can fight with you. And that is what we are thanking God for. We are thanking God for peace. Today, you have had to finish your work and go and sleep in peace. Nobody will come and kill you in your house. Today, There's national consciousness about our identity as a Ghanaian, where we believe that all of us as a country will have to look for the best kind of governance, rally around ourselves for national growth. And I think that that is what we are thanking Ghana for.
Okay, you'll still stay with me, and then I'll go to Haruna. But when I come to you, we'll discuss the call by the Archbishop Duncan Williams saying that we must have a national plan. Now, I quickly had to search and know that, well, there exists a certain national plan which was launched in 2018 and projected to plan for 40 years. I know that you were a government that had your manifesto. Now, in that manifesto, you have your policies, you have your plans of how you want to take this country. But when I come to you, want to tell me how this call by the Archbishop will sit in the current policies that you have, and even thereby sitting in the 40-year plan, which we already have as a country. But let me come to you, Haruna. Again, many have said that, well, the countries that celebrate Thanksgiving, such as America, Canada, and all of that, it is worth. Mustafa thinks that at least be thankful that today, by the end of this interview, you'd go home and have a peaceful sleep. At least we have come out from a peaceful election, so it is worth it. And for you, it's just politics as usual. When you're answering that, please bring my mind to the fact that the 40-year plan, which was launched in 2018, will be under your era. Moving forward, are you going to be constituting some of the plans in your manifesto? Haruna.
Thank you very much. I would want to remind my brother that National Day of Prayer, this is not the first time it's happening in Ghana. On the 25th of March, 2020, His Excellency Akufo-Addo declared 25th of March as National Day of Prayer and Fasting. And this was done across the length and breadth of Ghana. We thanked God, we prayed to God. Over a befallen pandemic, we had that. If my memory will set me right, and he too, he will remember, at the Independence Square, Aglo for Ghana, and other national prayer warriors. We have done that before. We have prayed to God. We appreciated God. So this is not the first time that a sitting president is declaring a day for a national prayer or national prayer to thank God. Akufo-Addo did thank God on the 25th of March. In addition to that, we started to thank and appreciate God and to ask for God's guidance in all that we did. Even we, as a party, in our thank you talk, we quoted 1 Thessalonians, and which says that we need to thank God and appreciate the work of God. The Quran is very definitive on appreciation of God, and we are thank God. That is why we, as a political party, we were present at the prayer. We were there on the 25th. When we declared the National Day of Prayer, the NDC did not appear there. They didn't come to thank God and to pray to God. But we were there. I was there. The national organizer was there. The greater COVID. No, I just want to set that parameter. I just want to set that parameters right. Again, he's talking about we have been able to go through a peaceful election. He should have been clapping for us. If we were to put on that same behavior they put on in the elections, Ghana would have been in the dungeons. If we were to put the same posture across, facing the NDC, with that kind of hooliganism they did in the elections, Ghana would have not been peaceful. He's talking about peace. In his own region, Oti region, people cannot sleep. They are killing them here and there, day in and day night. They are killing people. They have put curfew. Tribes cannot move. Some people have been belittled to like they are not Ghanaians in their own land. He's talking about peace. Boko has escalated. Peace does not exist in that place. He's talking about CD to dollar. Rent has not changed. Food has not changed. Cement prices has not changed. Please, Ghana's democracy is deteriorating. Our parliamentary business has been reduced and our ranking has come down up to 137th out of 168. We should be worried. Why is it so? Because an NDC has an absolute majority. See, when you want to situate these things, we must be very careful. Nobody disputes the thankful of God, but he himself knows down from his heart that the NDC has contributed very little in this very small time that they have come to what is currently happening in this country. He himself knows. Today, he's talking about we can talk and go and sleep. Hanan is sleeping in the cells. His wife has just been released yesterday in the night. Kofi Juma, rest of other people, Edu Boahin and Co., they are in cells. Day in, day out. They move in, they arrest people with impunity. They use bail conditions as a form of punishment, which is not regulated by law. Please, let us be very, very factual and let the people know that your reset is to persecute. And that is what you are doing. It has nothing to do with thanking God. You have failed. You are asking for 4 billion, which is more than IMF conditionality loan that we went for. 4 billion for no infrastructure, no tangible project, something called 24-hour economy, that you are going to have one job, 3 people performing. You have come, you have even dismissed the 1 person, and you have not even recruited the 2 people to it. You only replace them. In human resource management, we call it job rotation. You cannot do that and tell us that we should give you 4 billion to do it. So for me, I'm very clear in my mind. I will thank God. We will participate in nation building. And I believe that the discussion should focus on the life, the standard of living of the Ghanaian citizens. You cannot impoverish us and go ahead to tell us that we should say when it is cow, we should say when it is sheep, we should say it's a cow. It cannot. If it is black, we should say it is white. We cannot, because the NPP has positioned themselves very well in our democratic dispensation, and we will do nothing that will affect the democracy that we are enjoying. And that is why peace is in existence.
By Archbishop, especially for a national plan. And I reference a national plan because I recall that in 2018, we launched a national plan. And moving forward, it's the NPP that started their trot to 2028 elections. Are you looking at this in a broader picture? And does this mean anything to you at all as a party?
I think that the development of Ghana is paramount. All of us as political parties, our interest is to develop Ghana. The difference is that the road to the development, that we all have different ideas and routes to get to the final destination. So when it comes to development matters, for me, who has worked through the development chain, where we develop the community action plans, move to the area level plans, which feeds into the district development plans, and then the district development plans is harmonized to give us the national development plans. I believe that development should emanate from the people. The people should be defining critical issues that concern them, either by ranking them and get them into the national perspective. Calling for this is a very good direction, but to achieve that needs a consensus and dialogue amongst various stakeholders and political parties. We must be very genuine to ensure that such actions that we are going to take will be in tandem with our vision, and that is the use of our manifestos. So we need to collectively, as political parties and stakeholders, look at this particular critical matter and make sure that we don't have a development cut where when a government leaves and another government comes, some development projects will be stalled because it does not fit into their national development plan. I believe that this has to be achieved through consensus and dialogue, where all stakeholders will have to engage themselves genuinely to get this done for our motherland, Ghana.
If I have Mustafa with me, Mustafa, so tell me, do you see a certain level of disconnect between parties, their manifestos, and the national plan that already exists?
So before I go there, let me just rebut my brother a bit. He's talked about 2 conflicts happening in this country and blaming the NDC for it, one in Boku and one in Nkwanta. The Boku one is happening at the backyard of his flag bearer, former flag bearer, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia. the Nkwanta conflict is an inherited conflict. If you recall, as soon as President Mahama came into government and was sworn in, one of the first out visits of the National Security Coordinator was in Nkwanta to try and find lasting solution to the issues. And so all of these conflicts on the record are inherited conflicts. One is not blaming NPP for it. One is not blaming that as part of Akufo-Addo's incompetence, but we say that there are issues that government will take on responsibly. Now, I don't see too much of a disconnect between political party manifestos and our national agenda. It is just much of functionability of institutions of state, where we must find institutions and individuals in the public space working towards achieving national consensus, proper implementation of government policies, and ensuring that government policies are geared towards benefiting the people as intended. Look, President Akufo-Addo and his regime initiated the One Village, One Dam. On the records of national agenda, it was a good policy, but it was implemented by people who themselves were not committed to the implementation. Money was their agenda. You talked about one district, one factory, a very good development policy that will make sure that we're able to build our local industries. Again, for them, it was a Ponzi scheme to chop the money and leave Ghanaians, wondering. They brought planting for food and jobs. There is no better policy than planting for food and jobs. You know the outcome. It was about them chopping money. Today we are here. President Mahama have committed to continuing a good policy such as Agenda 111 hospitals. We would ensure that they are committed. He said it, and they are evaluating where all these projects are located so far. Unlike them, when we build schools, they came and they abandoned those schools in the bushes until we are back to power again. And so it is not a disconnect matter. It's a challenge of ensuring that government continues government's agenda. President Mahama have initiated a big push. And the big push policy, as you are aware, is to ensure that all uncompleted infrastructure projects started in the country will be completed. And for me, that is where the national agenda have always been gearing towards, where we are able to complete and to make sure that government investments are properly completed. It is also about the style of leadership. If the leader is vindictive, sectorial, tribalistic, like we have experienced in the last 8 years led by President Akufo-Addo, who himself and his brothers couched a document called Ajapadia to defraud the people of Ghana, supported by the NPP. It's still fresh in our memories that wasn't part of National Development Agenda. That wasn't part of the NPP manifesto, but this was the intent of a vicious president backed by a very corrupt political party who do not have the will to develop this country, but to enrich themselves. And he talked about national development agenda and arresting people. The arrest I've always talked about, we are going into step 2, the upper part of it, where bigger issues will be dealt with. When we are talking about national agenda and development, it doesn't sacrifice accountability issues. Today, we are bringing people to accountability to the highest level because it has to be deterrent. People should not go back and do what is not done. We should not allow what has happened in President Akufo-Addo's regime to repeat in a 10% or even more 11%. And that is what National Development Agenda is. And for me, I'm happy that these days, what these prayer platforms have been in itself is a wake-up call to all Ghanaians for national consensus. And for me, that is the beginning of our national development planning manifestation.
I mean, beyond the concerns that you have raised, and especially in implementing the NPP's policies, let's talk about yours as well, because apart from the NPP and some other political parties, economists have also raised concerns about one major or flagship policy that you have been championing, which Gazitano actually addressed the media yesterday. the launch as well today. Now, where they're asking the question, why rotation? Where is the demand for you to want to be supplying? Do you have the infrastructure ready? Do you have the variables, so the things that you need economically to be able to implement this policy? Wouldn't there now be another flaw again, because you're acknowledging some of the things that they did wrong, and yet we're introducing one, especially with how much you need to implement the policy in the 5 years and how much you have made available as your seed fund, which economists say that is woefully inadequate. What would you say to this?
Well, the current generation understands the essence of 24-hour economy. In the last 1 week, I've been at a port where they were doing a simulation exercise of the 24-hour economy. And I think that clients were very happy that as soon as you get your containers to the port, services of the port will be available for 24 hours so that you can get your goods out. In fact, the demand is so high to the extent that traffic will reduce at the port. Number two, if you look at places such as hospitals, where treatment is a lifeline and existence of every human being, you have patients who are in the hospitals and they are not getting treatment. If we have had to run 24-hour economy in the hospitals, increase the number of nurses and doctors, increase infrastructure such as lighting and equipment, so that a patient does not have to lie down for a day or two in order to get attended to, but because of running of shift and 24-hour economy, people will get treated and discharged so that we can save their life. And for me, it's a restructuring of the time period within which we work. We all know the difficulties, the constraints of the 8 hours that we serve the public. There are instances where even by the time that you leave your house and get to workplace, because of traffic and other distractions, 3-4 hours is already gone. And so if we serve the public 24 hours, you will see that productivity will be very high. And in as much as we have shortages and low demand in some parts of the sectors of the economy, we also have high demand in other parts of the economy, like manufacturing, the few industries that we have. If government is able to support them with the incentives and infrastructure to run 24-hour economy and within their cycle, you would realize that even in construction, the completion stages will be faster than if they were working from morning to evening and close. If you go to China, or Chinese typically, when they take your contract, they work absolutely 24 hours. They work in the night and day. So within a very short time, they're able to complete your work. If you go to even the private sector, such as mechanic shops, welding shops, and etc., where vehicles are parked in shops, and because of traffic, one will require a week or two to get their vehicles repaired because of 24-hour economy, which have already even been started in magazine. During our campaign, you recall a number of people who spoke from Kumasi that they have even started a 24-hour economy because they believe that it is good for them. Once you have light, your workers are at your workshop, you repair your car the following morning, you have to just come and take your car and go. So yes, it will be challenging to implement this overhaul and this restructuring of our time services. But I believe that this is not a policy that will be flawed. Even when you do all of this and people are in town, even in terms of radio and TV, we'll not have a situation where between the hours of, say, 11 and 4 a.m., nothing commercial is running on TV or radio. But because people are at business, an additional journalist will have to be employed on Joy News to be able to do something commercial within that period. It brings money to the table, it brings employment to the table, and it solves society problems.
I see.
This is not one of the policies that will fail.
Okay. Mustafa, stay with me. I want to bring in Kwame. When I come to you, because you talk about arrest, and especially on the topic of accountability, you want to let me in on the bigger ones, which you say we are going to be hearing. I want to hear that from you. But Kwame, you talk about something very important that has my attention. You mentioned for continuity. You also mentioned that part of these plans, if they are not codified, we are unable to get accountability. Do you see such as that? Because I asked the two political parties, do they see any disconnect between their manifestos and then the national plan, especially the one that we have already? There's not an emphatic no or yes, but you seem to toe the line that let there be a certain form of accountability. For these plans that the Archbishop is drawing all of us our attention to, how can we get that link so that there's no disconnect?
Thank you, my sister. Regarding the disconnect, we can all see how when new parties come to power, they discontinue some of the projects of the previous party and start their own projects, and then another party comes in and does not do it. If you look at this disconnect, it can be codified. Yes, you can have it in the Constitution, as I said, because as it is now, regarding the Directive Principles of State Policy, as I said, an individual cannot go to court and say that the government has refused to do this or has refused to do that. However, if you expand the powers of the citizenry under Chapter 6, then whenever a new party comes into power and does not continue what the previous party had started, or does not continue what we have in the development plan that we have, then any individual can go and then demand that some sanctions be taken against whoever is in charge of that sector on behalf of the government. We already have, I honestly, I forgot about the 2018 Vision 2057. Since we already have it in 2057, I don't think we should do away with it as a sign of good faith of all the parties and as a sign of continuity.
Right.
We can take another look at it. Okay. And there are three key aspects. The one that I see as very important is flexibility. So we can go back to Vision 2057, which was put in place in 2018, and under the aspect of flexibility, we can expand it to make it 100 years, and then we can decide that we will attach it in a way to the Constitution.
Okay.
Every party will have to make its input, and if you depart from it, you can be taken on by the citizens.
Okay, thank you, Kwame. So, Mustafa, which one of the arrests are we about to hear, or which one is in the pipeline?
I just want to assure my brother Mohammed that the greatest disservice mentality is when an individual can be given a vehicle of $90,000 and he uses that vehicle during the period of his service. When a government changes, he buys that vehicle for himself at 4,900 Ghana cedis. Ask Mohammed if it is his father's company, will he allow it to be run the way they have run the Republic of Ghana?
Who are we talking about?
He knows Kofi Juma is the one I'm talking about, and that on a National Thanksgiving Day he's been arrested. Look, I think that there is a lot of charity that is being done to these people, but I'm thankful that under this regime, rule of law has been given fidelity, where the mechanisms the law stipulates have been allowed to run. I can give him the highest form of assurance that without shred of doubt, he should never dream that their noise would distract government from holding individuals who have utilized political platforms.
What do you describe as noise?
So the noise they are making, that it is persecution. Persecution of who? Persecution when we are living evidently with the corruption. We are living evidently with the way people have stolen the wealth of this nation, and they say it's persecution. The biggest ones are yet to begin, and I can assure him that no amount of noise will stop that if it has to happen. As for giving you the lead, I will leave it for now, but Mohammed should go and embrace themselves. That anyone
who have dipped their hand into the consolidated fund, mismanaged it, and done wrong things will be brought to book. It doesn't matter what it takes. They will be brought to book. There's a need for renewal of the mind. National accountability is one of the things we have to renew our minds on. We cannot every day be giving corruption, lip services when we ourselves are corrupt.
Right.
President Mahama has promised that he will increase the standards to the extent that even if a new government comes, they can't lower the standards. That is the only way we can give development, growth. We can serve the people to the highest of their expectations, not what the MPP is doing.
Haruna, let me have your attention. So, of course, Mustafa says that it's just accountability and it's not persecution. Do you agree? Do I have Haruna with me? Haruna.
Has no yes, hello, I'm with you.
I can hear you. Thank you.
Yes, accountability has no expiring time. Once they are pushing on to ensure that there is that form of accountability, they should also be preparing themselves that in the near future they will face the same mistake and they should not cry. I also want to put it to him that no amount of braggart intimidation will stop us from confronting national issues. We will do it. We will not fear them. We will say it as it is. They should remember there is a day they will leave government and this same music will be played to them, either in cool or in mix or with a rap on top of that. He's talking about inheriting conflict. Please, if you check on your other sister stations, in Kwanta Town, it's now a scene of desolation. There has been renewed ethnic clashes between the Adeles, the Charles, and the Achodis. There is so much. I want you to pick your cameras, get your reporters to the place. But mind you, get the IGP to get you a protection. We want this particular thing to be uncovered. What is he talking about? Boku crisis was not escalated as it is. You have just come because of politics. You have escalated the conflict in Boku. Today, good people in Boku who have become presidents, who have become ministers, are being killed. Houses are burned.
But Haruna, the Boku conflict that you just cited escalated even before the 2024 elections.
No, when they inherited the gold reserve, did they come to tell you? They sold them, they got enough money, they pump it into the system to show up the city against the dollar. Did they tell you that? You inherited a conflict that has not been escalated. You escalate it. People are dying, people are leaving. No police officer will want to live in Boku as at now. I know a lot of police officers who have left and they are reposted. Even the police depot was not left. Police officers were being attacked in vehicles in their houses. The police had to issue a statement that they should stop going to market in one person. They should go in groups. At the point, they have to provide them with armored cars to buy food, water. That is what we're talking about. And we're talking about 24-hour economy. Hey, my God, my goodness.
Well, on
a government that cannot keep light on for 8 hours.
On that, my goodness and my God note, Haruna and Mustafa and Kwame, thank you, gentlemen, for joining us today on The Polls. You're watching The Polls. Please stay with me in the small.